This week's drive, we have a small parking problem, find that Formula One drivers can float, see the girls beat the boys in boats, and watch a Frenchman crash a Czech. All this and more in this week's Drive. Although the weather was very different from the extreme rain of the last round, the Silverstone 1000 kilometre, the race action in Germany was just as nail-biting and the result almost as close, helped in no small part by Hayanari Shimoda and Tom Chilton. The Japanese driver, sharing the Zetec Engineering 04S with Britain's Chilton, set the fastest time in qualifying but had the result cancelled due to a technical infringement, and the pair were forced to start at the back of the 44-car grid. Shimoda even suffered a stop-go penalty in the early stages, but still, amazingly, the pair worked their way through the pack to lead the race by lap 35. From then on, the remainder of the 6-hour race was a three-way battle between the Zetec, the Audi R8 of Scotland's Alan McNish and Stefano Telli, and the DBA Judd of Nicholas Manassian and Jamie Campbell-Walker. The final half hour saw Alan McNish back out in the Audi R8 and in the lead, but being chased by a fast-closing Zetec piloted by Shimoda. McNish lowered his lap times, but with a mere 10 minutes to go, Shimoda was right on his tail, and a pass on the inside into turn 1 meant the Zetec led. McNish looked like fighting back and kept putting in the quick laps, but there was no catching Shimoda, who took the checkered flag to win by 10.7 seconds. Third place went to the Manassian-Campbell-Walker pairing in the DBA, 24 seconds down on the winner. Zetec Engineering now leads the Constructors' Championship with 27 points. Pescarolo Sport is second with 24 after their fourth place finish, and the Roll Centre Dallara team are third following their fifth place.
It feels great. We worked so hard this weekend, and even despite getting pushed to the back of the field, we still won. It's unbelievable. It's amazing.
There's one race left in this year's series, the 1,000-kilometre race at Istanbul in Turkey. Richmond, Virginia was another night race that's popular with NASCAR spectators, and the event got off to a clean start. After this race, the top 10 drivers on points would compete for the championship in the final 10 events. On lap 211, former champion Jeff Gordon was pancaked into the outside wall, and he radioed to say his car was so severely damaged that he couldn't continue. On lap 355, there was a multi-car pileup. Dale Jarrett tried to make it 3 wide, banging into Tony Raines and Dave Blaney. Dale Earnhardt spun to avoid them. On lap 363, Ricky Rudd was spun out and hit the outside wall, followed seconds later by a crash involving Jamie McMurray. It was a costly crash for McMurray, who at the time was just 18 points out of the 10th and final spot in the chase for the championship. Last year, McMurray missed out on the final spot in the chase by 15 points. In the end, Kurt Busch was able to avoid trouble and took the checkered flag for the race victory, his 14th career win. The track in Joliet, Illinois was the site for the Indy 300, and the race got off to a clean start. Danica Patrick started from pole position, the third time she's done so this season, but she would only manage a 6th place finish, and first to go past her was Thomas Scheckter.
And just there, Scheckter, you saw Scotty had to pull up.
Just 20 laps into the race, Australian rookie Ryan Briscoe was involved in a frightening and fiery crash. As he raced for position with Alex Barron, their tyres touched, which sent Briscoe into the air. His car broke apart as it tore a hole in the fence and burst into flames, and parts were strewn across the racetrack. Briscoe was airlifted to hospital with head and back pain, but was awake and alert. Barron and Kosauki Matsuura, who were also involved, walked away unscathed. The crash resulted in a 17-minute race-stopping red flag, the first for a medical emergency in an IRL race since October 2003. Briscoe was left with 2 broken collarbones, thanks to his head and neck safety device, a fractured bone in his right foot, concussion and a bruised lung. Briscoe's cockpit stayed intact even though the rest of the car disintegrated. The fire was caused when the fuel pump, which is mounted inside the flexible Kevlar bladder, was pulled out and a minor oil fire was fed by methanol. Dan Weldon set an IndyCar record with his 6th victory this season and all but clinched his first IRL championship, beating Helio Castroneves and Sam Hornish in a tight finish. Weldon will win the points title simply by taking to the track at Watkins Glen in 2 weeks' time. Weldon's father Clive was at the track to see his son take an historic win. With the victory, the English driver broke a tie with Hornish for the most number of wins in a season. Weldon leads reigning series champion and Andretti teammate Tony Kanaan by 102 points with 2 events remaining. The island of Ibiza hosted the 2005 Battle of Kings, a day-long event pitting stars from the motorsport world against each other in an array of racing disciplines. The occasion attracted a collection of top talent from across the globe. The Battle of Kings was started by former world motocross champion Heinz Kinnegadner, who dreamt up the event to raise money for his charity Wings for Life. Kinnegadner's son Hannes was left wheelchair-bound after a motorcycle crash in 2003, so he started the foundation to support research in the field of the central nervous system. David Coulthard was joined by his Red Bull colleagues Christian Klein and Vitantonio Liuzzi, and they represented Formula One as one of the 6 competing teams.
I think it's fantastic. Obviously, the main reason is for the charity Wings for Life, and I think that's a very worthy cause. And to be here with so many other different sports people is a very enjoyable event.
The 3rd annual Battle of the Kings began with a jet ski race, which was won by Victor Sheldon of Team Motomix, the only champion jet skier in the field. The Formula One team triumphed in the dinghy race. Dragged along by a teammate riding a jet ski, the dinghy riders held on as their vessels bounced across the water at high speed. Klein pulled Liuzzi across the finishing line in last place, with Team Motomix victorious again, but the German enjoyed taking part regardless of the result.
Sensational. It is the first time that I have competed here, but I've heard many good things about this event. It's super when many sportsmen from different kinds of sports get together, where they have lots of fun.
The next event was a rally stage, the first of 3 off-road rounds. Jutta Kleinschmidt, the only woman to win the Paris-Dakar Rally back in 2001, had a clear advantage, and members of her team race car scooped the top 3 places. With 3 of the 6 teams made up of professional motorcycle riders, the quad bike event was bound to be the hardest fought of the day's 6 rounds. Team Motocross took the checkered flag with American motocross rider Travis Pastrana up front.
This is the closest thing you get to motocross, so it's kind of cheating for me, but yeah, I don't know, I'm looking forward to the cars too.
The event concluded with a kart rally, and no surprise, Kleinschmidt's team race car clinched their 2nd win of the day. Team MotoGP were one of the 2 teams who failed to win a single event. Team Motomix, which consisted of 3 bike racers, a rally driver and a jet skier, topped the standings with 2 wins and 2 seconds. But the Wings for Life Foundation was the day's big winner. Gallipoli, on the southern heel of Italy, played host to the 5th leg of the 2005 Powerboat P1 World Championship. Both championships, Evolution and Supersport, were still up for grabs. Sony and Buzzy Bullet were the respective leaders going into the weekend. Sony were early casualties in the opening race due to mechanical issues, and that handed the initiative in the Evolution class to their championship rivals, Vetpunkt.com and OSG. The tussle between those 2 would last most of the race. In Supersport, Maltese entry Chaudron had a fantastic start and initially led from title contenders Jolly Drive and Buzzy Bullet. Buzzy Bullet was soon forced to withdraw with an engine bracket failure. In the Evolution class, victory went to Vetpunkt.com with OSG 2nd, while in the Supersport class, Jolly Drive took the checkered flag with Chaudron a commendable 2nd and Alufer 3rd. Buzzy Bullet and Sony worked through the afternoon to fix their respective problems. Sony with a drive issue and Buzzy constructing a makeshift engine bracket due to the lack of spare parts. Vetpunkt.com made a slow start in the 2nd race, but powered back up through the field into 2nd in the Evolution class, behind leaders Sony. Meanwhile, in Supersport, Buzzy Bullet's bad luck continued as they again broke an engine bracket and were forced to run on just 1 engine. Jolly Drive took full advantage of their rivals' misfortune to move into the lead. Back in Evolution, Sony encountered air and fuel pump problems on the final lap, and Vetpunkt.com passed them with only a kilometre to go and claimed victory. Provisionally, OSG was second and Thurea third. In the Supersport class, Jolly Drive took the checkered flag again and maximum points for the weekend. Chaudron was second, ahead of Alufa. However, Vetpunkt.com were disqualified, penalised for racing above the speed restrictions, and OSG were declared the overall winners. OSG now leads the overall standings in the Evolution class with 59 points, 5 ahead of Vetpunkt.com and 9 ahead of Sony. The picturesque Castle Cornet, rising above St Peter Port, formed the backdrop to rounds 9 and 10 of the Formula 4 Powerboat Championship. It was the all-female crew of Ray Marine, with Shelley Jory at the wheel and Libby Keir navigating, who took the early lead into Turn 1. The two races would determine the 2005 champions, and the Fat Boy Racing team of Rob Lister and Will Knocker were hot favourites, holding a 12-point lead going into race 1. Then the R2 Composites entry of Kevin Cousins overturned in the chicane section, and the race had to be red flagged. It brought proceedings to an abrupt halt, wiping out Ray Marine's lead in the process. Lister and Knocker had been battling it out for 5th place, unable to make a real impact. However, once the race was restarted, Ray Marine hit the front once again, and this time there was no looking back. Behind them, Fat Boy Racing got involved in another tangle with Evans Heritage, the latter making contact with the rear of Lister's craft with such force that it broke their engine's cam belt and breached the fiberglass hull. Ray Marine took the checkered flag in the opening race. Lister's appeal against Evans Heritage was deemed a fair racing incident, and as Fat Boy Racing was towed back to port, the Ray Marine pair took the lead in the standings. Saturday's bright sunshine gave way to grey, misty conditions for race 2 on Sunday, but it didn't seem to bother Ray Marine, who roared away from the start. They soon hit the front ahead of Negotiator and Heights of Abraham, and were never seriously troubled thereafter. Lister and Knocker made one last desperate bid to make an impression and very nearly turned over, but Ray Marine took their second win of the weekend to snatch the title from Fat Boy Racing in dramatic fashion. Jory and Keir became the first all-female crew to win the Formula 4 Championship and ended the season with 105 points, 10 ahead of Lister and Knocker. Jack Glendinning and Simon Bucknell of the warm-up team also ended on 95 points, but had to settle for 3rd place on a countback of results. Overall championship leader Jussi Valimäki of Finland started the final leg of the Rally of Indonesia in the Asia-Pacific Rally Championship with a big lead from the opening stages on the previous days. In scorching conditions, Valimäki kept up the pace and drove skillfully through the tough terrain, cutting through the sugarcane plantations. The MRF team driver lifted off in the final 3 legs to allow his teammate Katsuhiro Taguchi to move up 2 places. Taguchi experienced handling and overheating problems repeatedly during the event, while New Zealander Jeff Argyle of Silverstone team battled to match the pace of Valimäki in the rough conditions. Argyle moved to 2nd position in the overall standings with 42 points, while Taguchi is 3rd with 38 points. Valimäki's victory in Indonesia was vital for Team MRF, as the Finn had missed the previous race in Malaysia last month. The win gave Valimäki a total of 70 points from the 5 races that he has competed in, and that gives him an unassailable lead.
Difficult rally, and the weather is the most challenging thing for me. Scandinavian people not used to drive on these kind of temperatures, but very happy, doesn't matter anymore.
The Finn turned 31 during the event. Italian superbike rider Lorenzo Lanzi, deputising for injured Reggie Lacconi, broke the lap record to take pole position at a misty Lausitzring near Dresden in Germany for round 10 of the World Superbike Championship. But title leader and former world champion Troy Corser on his Suzuki was quickest away, with Lanzi outbraking himself and having to take to the banked road which orbits the infield circuit. Chris Vermeulen took the lead from Corser on lap 2. The young Australian started the day 84 points behind Corser and needed a win to keep his title hopes alive. Vermeulen received another boost as Noriyuki Haga moved into second as Corser ran wide on lap 3. Lanzi received a ride-through penalty for his first lap antics, and he would finish 8th. Up front, Haga was on the ragged edge as he pursued Vermeulen, but his efforts were abruptly ended by the red flag after 21 of the scheduled 23 laps. The leader had pointed up to show that there was rain on the circuit, and he was awarded the race win. He asked his pit crew, did Troy crash because Corser was so far back? Race 2 again saw Corser take the lead, with Haga making a blistering start to move into second. But with Vermeulen 6th after an indifferent start, the series leader slid off at the start of lap 2 to give more hope to the young Australian. The gritty Corser remounted and eventually finished 13th to gain 3 vital points. Lanzi, the quickest man of the weekend, managed to control his exuberance this time and took the lead from Haga moments later. His fellow Italian, Ivan Clementi, had a big spill on his Ducati. Back at the head of the field, Vermeulen was on a charge which saw him move into 3rd place, and he was ready to pounce as the front two battled for the lead. As Haga's tyres started to wear out, Lanzi went clear, and the Australian took 2nd place from the hard-charging Japanese veteran. It was the inexperienced stand-in Lorenzo Lanzi who went on to score his maiden World Superbike victory in fine style, and nothing pleases an Italian more than one of their own riding a Ducati to glory. Corser's once unassailable lead has taken a beating. There are 100 points available, and having led the championship all year, he can still lose it. The next round is at Imola. The 2005 Supermoto World Championship ended its summer break and was back with the 5th round at the new venue of Bishop's Court, about 50 kilometres southeast of Belfast. Melk staged the last Grand Prix in Austria on June the 19th. Frenchman Boris Chambon dominated the S2 class. Second in practice, Chambon claimed Superpole on Saturday morning, and nobody was able to challenge him. Chambon won the first race and was followed home by Frédéric Bolley, while Jérôme Giraudeau came 3rd. Chambon had a harder time in race 2 as he was chased by Eddie Seal, who achieved his first overall podium since Castelletto. 5th in the first race, the Belgian rider finished runner-up in the next one and gained a 3rd place position overall behind Chambon and Bolley. Bolley beat Giraudeau for 3rd place as his teammate made 2 mistakes in the off-road section. Chambon took the checkered flag in 20 minutes, 15.7 seconds. Coming back from a serious injury, Thierry Van den Bosch of France had to fight off the challenge of Italy's Ivan Lazzarini and Gérard Delapine of Belgium in the S1 category. He managed to do so, winning in 20 minutes and 5.4 seconds, while Lazzarini managed to edge out Delapine for 2nd place by just 0.2 of a second. Leading the 2nd race initially, Van den Bosch lost the lead when he made a mistake in the off-road section, and he was in 3rd position when Czech Michal Havel took him out. Both crashed, and Thierry damaged his hand and was unable to finish the race. Lazzarini got the overall win, his first success aboard the factory Husqvarna. His teammate Delapine was 2nd, followed by German Bernd Hiemer, who had a car accident earlier in the week and was delighted to maintain his leadership of the series, even though by the slimmest of margins. The next round is the Grand Prix of Mediterranean at Jesolo in Italy. Adam Raga had his sights set on a first Outdoor World Trials Championship title when he rolled into the starting tent at the Grand Prix of Germany. The Spaniard had already become the dominant force in indoor trials, snatching his third consecutive title at the Grand Prix of Argentina in March. Outdoor titles had previously eluded Rage, but a fourth-place finish in the 03 season, his first, followed by a third in the following season, suggested that 2005 could be his year. Refreshed after the season's 4-week summer break, Rage put further distance between himself and Takahisa Fujinami, his nearest rival, at the top of the standings. The 23-year-old carried a 13-point lead over reigning outdoor champion Fujinami into the Grand Prix of Germany, round 9 of the season. With 40 championship points on offer at the penultimate Grand Prix of the season, Rage had a good chance of turning his outdoor dream into reality. Fujinami struggled on the long, slippery course on day 1 to hand Rage the advantage. The Japanese Honda rider finished in a lowly 8th place after Saturday's 2 laps with 68 penalty points. Rage, meanwhile, was at his best and finished first, 1 point ahead of compatriot Mark Frieser with 37 penalties. Rage's overall lead swelled to 25 championship points, which meant that the title would be his as long as he finished ahead of Fujinami on day 2. Any hopes Fujinami may have had of a Rage collapse were short-lived. Rage was unstoppable, just as he had been for most of the season, and another win sealed the World Outdoor Championship title. The Gas rider conceded a total of 17 penalty points to complete a maximum haul of 20 championship points, the 8th time from this season's 14 days of competition to date. Another Spaniard, Tony Bowe, finished second with 26 penalty points, while outgoing champion Fujinami came third with 31. Rage completed a successful title campaign to follow in the footsteps of his hero, Jordi Torres, who won the last of his 7 outdoor titles in 1995. The 2005 outdoor season ends with the Grand Prix of Belgium at Spa-Francorchamps. Although the title has now been decided, the runners-up spot was still up for grabs, with Fujinami, 2003 champion Dougie Lamkin and Albert Kavarstani all in contention. The final Grand Prix of the Speedway season was in Italy. Dethroned world champion Jason Crump handed his crown to Tony Rickardsson in Poland, but was keen to finish the season on a winning note after a year in the Swede's shadow. Rickardsson went into the first semi with Norwegian Hans Andersen and Bjarne Pedersen and American Greg Hancock. Starting in lane 1, the Swede took the lead at the first bend and was never passed. By the end, he'd opened up a big lead and won easily. Hancock was the other rider to progress. In the second semi-final, Crump was joined by fellow Australian Lee Adams, Scott Nicholls of Britain, and Sweden's Andreas Jonsson. However, the race was stopped on the first lap when Jonsson fell off his bike at the first corner when his front wheel caught Crump's back wheel. The Swede, who was unhurt, was excluded from the rerun, which Crump was able to win. His compatriot Adams joined him in the final. Rickardsson once again started brilliantly, taking the lead at the first corner with Crump hot on his heels, unable to find a way past. The new world champion crossed the line to claim yet another Grand Prix win, finishing off his season in style. Crump came second with Hancock third, while Adams brought up the rear. Rickardsson ended the season with 196 points, 42 ahead of Crump, and Lee Adams finished third overall with 107. After the race, Rickardsson announced that he will bring the curtain down on his illustrious speedway career at the end of the 2006 season. The 6-time world champion will have one stab at creating a new record of 7 titles before hanging up his Kevlars. There will be 3 farewell meetings in England, Poland and Sweden under the collective banner of The Final Lap. So, whether you're starting at the front, leading the pack, or just chucking it up the road, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.